Hey up, guys. I hope you're well. We're all good here in Huddersfield at Ricky School of Rock in my new space. I am here today because I'm going to do a little trick video, I suppose, on how to tune your guitar if you do not have a tuner. Let me just adjust some of this. I wonder if I can do that here. If I touch the... No, that's not going to do anything. Right, brilliant. So the idea behind this is, what do you do? You've forgotten your tuner, you haven't got data to download the app that, to be frank, I think the mobile apps that deal with tuning guitar aren't really that good because they pick up too much ambient noise and they're a bit finicky. You know, these things here are great. These are the best tuners ever because they calibrate by listening to the vibrations. There's a little sensor in the foot and it measures the amount of vibrations per second that are being transmitted up the neck via vibration, obviously. Right, so the thing is, right, so what do? You go to a friend's house, and if you're like me, you're one of those people, you go around to somebody's house, and you are you become the designated guitar tuner. You know, you go around, you go, oh, you've got a guitar, and someone says, oh yeah, it's out of tune, and you go, all right, well, I'll tune it. Well, how do you do it? By ear. And the way you would do the tuning is, you would do it by having a relative pitch. This is relative tuning. It's just so that the instrument becomes playable. It's not that it becomes playable in a band scenario or something that you could use, get up on stage and rock out with a band, unless you have perfect pitch. But this is about relative pitch. So being relative pitch, what we need to do is, we've got an A string. So I'm going to go from the A string, or you could go to the E string. You could tune this E string to any pitch. The main thing is, as long as this string here, let me just adjust this here a bit. As long as the E string isn't so tight, yeah, because what happens is, as you tune across here, that tightness of this string will transfer all the way down to the thinnest E string. And if you get that string there too tight, then what happens is you'll play it, you'll snap it, and then you are without a string, and you're going to have to bang a new one on, or put a new set on, or go to the store to go get some. So here's what we need to do with this then. So we need a pitch there, and so we want a fairly decent amount of slack on that there, and like I said, this is relative pitch. And then what we're going to do is we're going to sing a song in our heads. Or you can sing it out loud, and if you can do that, then that's great. And the song that we're going to sing here is Here Comes the Bride. This is the tune that puts the fear of God into all men all over the world. So here we go, this one. Here comes the bride. Now that distance, if you watch any of my other videos, you'll know that the distance between the E and the A string is a perfect fourth. And that perfect fourth happens all the way across the strings, apart from between the G and the B string, where we get a major third. That's a third interval. So just think of that as those two are a fourth, those two are a fourth, those two are a fourth. And so when I mean those two, I mean E and A are a fourth, A and D are a fourth, D and G are a fourth, B and G and B are, did I say D and B? Right, it's E and A and D, D and G. I said that right. And then G and B. You have to say things right on YouTube, otherwise the comments get flooded with all sorts of strangeness. And then between G and B, we revert back to the perfect fourth again. So just to give you an idea, we go, here comes the bride. Now, I'm just going to put my A string out of tune here. So that's out of tune. So what I'll do is I'll go, here comes the bride. And by doing this, you're also training your ear to be able to recognize intervals, and also just to be able to pick stuff out. You're building up a bit that listening acuity. You need that listening acuity to be able to work out songs and do other things with your guitar. Then what we've done is those two are now set. So we move from the A to the D string, and we should get Here Comes the Bride Again. So we get Here Comes the Bride Again if you want to sing it. Then between the D and the G string, Here Comes the Bride. We get that again. Excuse me. And then what happens is going between the G and the B string, it doesn't work there. Yeah, what we have there is we have Kumbaya. Now, When the Saints, or Michael Row the Boat, those sort of tunes. But I like to use Kumbaya because that's one that I remember from school when I was back being a kid. And what I'm doing is I'm playing the 3rd fret of the B string there just to complete that melody. The only reason I'm doing that is to confirm in my own mind that I'm hitting the right pitch, that I'm getting the right pitch. If I tune that B string out, I can hear now by landing on that one that it is out. I can hear that that's a little bit sharp there. Or flat, actually. Kumbaya, my lord. Yeah, so that one goes there. And then what happens is, because the tuning thing happens back to perfect fourths between the B and the E string, Here Comes the Bride. Now I've slightly tuned this out by sometimes it's a good idea to just measure one E string against another E string. Make sure they're singing from the same song sheet. Yeah? Then what we can do is, once we have something kind of like being in tune, then what we could do is we can use the old school way, where by pressing down on the 5th fret of the E string, that gives us the pitch A, and the A string is just underneath it. Those two should sound the same as each other. Now what happens is you get a bit of a modulation, a bit of a wobble between those two notes. That's what you're listening out for. You can see there. And I'm picking the E string, then the A string. I have to arch all the way over with that 2nd finger. If I lay it flat, I'm going to get this. And that's no good, because I'm listening to the 2 notes. And this is another thing that builds up your hearing acuity. Got that there, look. Right, so you can hear that wobble just a little bit. You will never get rid of that modulation. What your goal is to make it as slow and smooth as possible. Then we get the same thing here. If I fret at the 5th fret of the A string, yeah, that gives me a D, the D note, and then underneath is the D string. I compare them against each other, so that's a unison. A D and a D, and we're listening and making sure that it's not too much of a wobble going on there. Jumping down another string, we go on the 5th fret of the D string, which gives us a G note. And I can hear that G is slightly sharp. So I'll make a tiny adjustment. And what I do, and it's always important in that context, because people call it tuning up for a reason. Don't call it tuning down, because the reason it's important to tune up to the note is because when you tune down, you put slack into the windings that are around the posts here, around the machine heads. Once you put that slack in, well, if you bend or pull on that string, you will pull that slack out and the string will go out of tune. So always tune up to the pitch, yeah, so drop below and then come up. That's with using a normal tuner as well. So that's in tune now. But like I say, That's flat. I'm tuning up to the pitch. Then what happens is we've got to compensate for the kink in the tuning between the G and the B. Do not see that kink in the tuning as being a bad thing, because what it does is it disrupts these comfortable patterns that we get used to, and it makes us have to think just a little bit harder, and that creates a lot more diversity in the ways that you have to think as a guitarist. So look, this here, 4th fret to the B string there. Now, so this is a B, 4th fret on the G string. I can hear that B string is slightly out of tune. Flat. That sounds more in tune now. They're in unison with each other. This one, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up to it. I'm tuned lower. You can hear that. That's definitely lower. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the pitch that I've got in my 3rd finger here, 5th fret on the B string, which is an E note. I'm going to play that, record it in my head. And basically match the sound that I hear in my head. And then an E minor chord is always going to be a good chord to hear if your guitar is now in tune, because it utilizes all 6 strings, and the open strings will clash against each other if they are slightly out. Oh, so Alan is tuning with harmonics. Oh, I thought I was going then, but Alan's dropped a clanger and put tuning with the harmonics is useful. Do you see, the thing about a guitar is that it isn't equally tempered. It's a living thing. You think about it, the wood here has a humidity within it. No worries at all, Alan. The wood has a humidity within it, and if the room that you're in is hot, it will dry out. If the room itself is more humid, then the neck will bend and flex according to the temperature that you're in, which is why when you go to these great big guitar stores in America, they have all the expensive ones in like a great big humidor, like a great big cigar humidor. So it's very much down to each guitar. You can use the harmonics, and if anybody hasn't seen how you use the harmonics, then the harmonics it's the power chord shape. Now what you do is you take the power chord shape, so you play the natural harmonic right over the fret wire, on the 5th fret, and then right over the fret wire on the 7th fret on the A string. So I'm moving between those two there. Now, what you have to do there is you have to tune your ear into that wobble again. It becomes a little bit more obvious. Sometimes it's a little bit more difficult because the timbre of the string can override the actual fundamental note that you were meant to be hearing. Because when you play a note on the guitar, you are hearing a fundamental note, and you are hearing a series of overtones that are of different amplitude. Now hopefully this makes sense, that of different amplitude, which gives us the color of the sound. So if one of those overtones is slightly more pronounced, then it might mean that the string sounds a little bit off. So if we take that sounds a little bit sharp on the harmonics. But what I'd also do is, because of that humidity in the wood and everything else, I'd maybe even see what a power chord sounds like. Because in the harmonic series, the first few intervals, we get the root, and then we get the octave, and then we get a 5th. So the 5th is a real fundamental harmonic indicator of how in tune you are. So if we take that one there, then that's usually a good indicator. What you can also do is if you play an E here, open E string, and then you play an E at the 7th fret. Those should sound close as you can to each other. They're an octave apart. Sometimes I like to pull the E string and just the E on the A string and make sure that bending it pronounces that modulation, that wobble a little bit more. And that usually lets me know whether it's truly in tune. So there's a few ways to just check the tuning between those two strings. But the fundamental thing is use the perfect fourth, Here Comes the Bride, as your starting point. Then put this power chord on it. Then try sliding that first finger up to the 7th fret. Then try the harmonics, yeah, and just check that the guitar is in tune with itself, because every guitar is different, just like every pair of hands are different. And then you just carry that procedure all the way down the neck. However, it changes because of the pesky kink in the tuning between the G and the B that I love so much. We have to add a fret now. So if you want to listen to the difference between, there's the G and the B string at the 3rd fret, yeah. That gives us a lovely 5th. And then I have to add another fret and go to the 8th fret. And you can hear, you will know if these are in tune. And then going to the B and the thin E string, we're back to that perfect 5th. So that should sound really nice. Should sound a little bit mandolin-y. And then when I slide up here to the 7th fret again, I can tune across there, harmonics here, so that's following that harmonic power chord shape idea here, but we're using natural harmonics here. Coincidentally, if you want to use harmonics to go to tune between the G, B and the thin E string, then what you do is if you whack that harmonic at the 4th fret of the G string, you get the same harmonic at the 5th fret of the B string, and you get the same harmonic at the 7th fret. Now you can hear they sound different to each other, and the reason being is the timbre is affected by the thickness of the string. So that's quite a weak sounding one at the 4th fret. Unless you do this on an electric guitar, then it's easier and you put some distortion through it, some gain, sorry. There you go. Yeah, that's right over the 4th fret. It's a tricky one to find sometimes, that one. But right, okay, hopefully, Alan, that's answered your question. There's no cut and dry answer with using harmonics. Like I said, it's down to the guitar and the ambient humidity of the instrument and the room and all those different sorts of things. If any of you have done a gig outside on the back of a truck, if you've done a truck gig, then you'll know that keeping your guitars in tune doing outside gigs is a real pain, and that's because the climate and the weather conditions affect the humidity of the instrument, and it will warp and do all sorts of strange things that you don't anticipate, which is why it's always a good idea to bring more than one guitar to your gigs. Anyhow, guys, yeah, that went on a little bit more than I thought, but it's all good. It's me here to help you guys, and I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, subscribe. If you've got some value, subscribe, hit that notification, hit the like, do all those things, and I will see you in another lesson. I've got some corkers coming up, so I will see you soon. Take care. Bye.